Welcome to Where Are They Now?, where we reach into the archives of Lenape, Shawnee, Cherokee, and Seneca high schools and invite selected alumni to share their memories and fill us in on their career paths after commencement. Since Lenape's first graduating class in 1961, Shawnee's in 1972, Cherokee's in 1978, and Seneca's in 2005. Over 77,000 individuals have received diplomas from these four schools. Join us now for another Lenape District alumni interview on Where Are They Now? Hello and welcome to another edition of Where Are They Now? I'm Mark Sonsini, a 1996 graduate of Cherokee High School, and today we'll be talking with a Lenape alumnus from the class of 1976. He is currently retired after working for many years in human resources for several large companies. I'd like to welcome Tony Camoratto to the show. Tony, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, great to have you here today. I'm excited to hear about your career after Lenape. But first, let's go back and talk about your time at Lenape for a little bit. Graduated in '76, and you grew up in Marlton, and Marlton students went to Lenape at that time, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was before Cherokee, before Seneca, before Shawnee.
Right.
Maybe Shawnee was there. Shawnee was there. So before Seneca and Cherokee.
Gotcha. And any siblings that went to Lenape with you?
Yes, my older sister Anne went to Lenape, and my younger sister Elaine, I think, started here at Lenape and then finished at Cherokee. She may have been the first graduating class of Cherokee. I'm not sure.
And that's Elaine Riches, who also teaches here at Lenape now, correct?
For quite some time, yes. She has been a teacher here. And her daughter's a teacher at, I want to say, Seneca.
Excellent, okay. So education runs in the family a bit. Mm-hmm. During your time here at Lenape, you were involved with football and basketball and track. Tell me about those.
I started out in basketball, and I think freshman, got cut when I was a sophomore, so I decided to switch. And my junior and senior year, I played football and thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't recall us being all that strong, but it was still great fun the way sports can be in high school. Yeah. And then I did track, more the field part of track and field. I think I finished shot put as a senior. So it was all a lot of fun, and I still stay in touch with some of the people that I played with. So that part is very rewarding still.
Terrific. Let's talk about one of your other memories, or I'm sorry, first let's talk about one of the teachers that had an impact on you here at Lenape, and that was Mr. William Rell for biology. Tell me about him. Yeah,
he taught biology, tall basketball player and coach. He coached the varsity team, I think the first JV team and then varsity team, and so he made the subject interesting, good sense of humor, related well to all the students, and so he was interesting to have as a teacher. Made it fun.
Yeah, a lot of those teachers who are able to connect with the students are the ones that students often remember even years down the road, so that connection is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody you can sort of have a relationship with. And at that point in your life, adults are sort of an oddity to you, teachers especially. They don't quite know what to make of them. They don't realize that they're people as well outside the classroom. So it was nice to make a connection with him and others. His names just don't resound for me now.
Yeah, good. One of the memories you had, or the big memories from Lenape, was a senior trip to the Poconos, and at that time in 1976, I believe that was the first class to do an overnight trip for senior trip. So that was a new thing. Tell me about that.
I do think it was the first one, and we went to maybe Mount Airy Lodge in the Poconos, and it was a very big deal for all of us to go there and stay. I don't know if we stayed one night or two. I don't recall. I still have photographs of us in scarves and all trying to ski. I did not ski at the time, so we all tried to ski, and it went poorly for most of us. And interesting because I did take it up after that. I am a member of the ski patrol now for Vail Resorts, so it's come a long way since tumbling down the mountain there. And it's interesting because the senior trips have obviously come a long way as well.
They have,
they go to much further away than the Poconos now. But it was a big deal then.
That was cool at the time. Very good. A couple things in your senior directory in the yearbook. Your goal was to be independently wealthy. That's probably a common goal for that age, or any age really. And a couple of things that you left in your senior will. You left your radiator spot to Lisa Saarinen. Now tell me what was behind that.
Lisa was an underclassman, a sister, younger sister of a friend of mine.
Okay.
And the radiator spot, somewhere in this big building that I barely recognize now, was a part of the hallway where we would wait between classes for the few minutes you had between classes and lean on the radiator, sit against the window, etc. And it was a big deal back then. And
keep
so,
warm in the wintertime.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And you also left your bone-crushing blocks to Mr. Graham, who was one of the coaches.
Yes, it's always equal parts interesting and embarrassing to revisit your 17-year-old self. But he was a football coach and a barrel of a man, a big guy, played linebacker in college.
Yeah.
So he was, again, one of the people who related well to all of us.
Good. All right, so after you graduate Lenape, you go off to college. You go to Albright College, and you double majored in biology and business.
Yes,
correct?
I started out as a biology major, liked it, but didn't really want to be a teacher. Wasn't sure what I would do with it if I wasn't going to be a teacher. I'm sure there are more options than I realized at the time, but they had a program at Albright where you could sort of develop an independent study major for yourself and combine things, and so that's what I did with those two. And so it served well. You said I enjoyed the biology, wanted to stay with it, but wanted to broaden things a bit as well.
Okay. And while at Albright, you also played football, continued with football?
I did. I played as a freshman and really did not enjoy it at all. It was, even at that very small level, it was more work than I really wanted to put into it. Between the time spent practicing, the time spent watching films, eating meals with the players, really wasn't what I was looking for. And they had started a soccer team, so they were sufficiently weak in soccer that a walk-on like me who never played soccer before.
I was going to say, had you played? You hadn't played before?
Played before, but I also was a goalie, so I didn't really need true soccer skills when you think of soccer players. So I played goalie for 3 years, and really enjoyed that. We weren't very good because it was a new program for the school, but it was good. I think I was captain my last 2 years, and so it was more enjoyable and more relaxed as a sport than football was. Okay, good.
All right, so you get your bachelor's from Albright, and then shortly thereafter you are at Rowan University, at that time Glassboro State, working on your master's and also employed there as well. Tell me about that and how that came about.
I started out with a couple of smaller colleges, what is now Arcadia University, was Beaver College back then, and I was an admissions officer. So I was the person who interviewed your child when they come to college to look at the college. When I was an undergraduate at Albright, I was the person who gave tours. I was a tour guide as my job. And so I got to know the admissions process from being a tour guide. I enjoyed it, and when I graduated, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and so I thought that would be an interesting role. And so I did that. And so you interview the students when you come, and then more difficultly review their applications and decide whether they get accepted or not. And that's always a very, very difficult process. For the 17-year-olds to hear whether they got in or not. I was able to do my master's at the time, so it was, I could go to class during the day occasionally, at night. Back then, and maybe still, working for college was a pretty good deal. Relaxed environment. They were closed on Fridays in the summer. They may still be. I'm not sure. So it was a good way to get into the working force and decide what I wanted to do after that. But after 5 years or so there, earned my master's, it was a little too relaxed. I wanted more, wanted a faster pace, and so it sort of parlayed that into moving into for-profit, into a business, and started working. So left there after, I said, maybe 5 years or so. Okay.
And is that at the time when you started, you went into human resources?
It is. It is. I started out recruiting in human resources. For a business in Newtown, in Bucks County. So parlayed the whole admissions process into recruitment, and recruiting at the time was very much different than it is now. It was more still putting ads in the newspaper, those sorts of things. And so I would interview people, decide whether we wanted them to work for us, and try to recruit them. And so from there, sort of HR opened up to me and got into all the other areas of human resources with different large companies. I've always worked for big companies. I worked for SAP for a while, big high-tech company, German-owned. I worked for Cigna for a few years, Pico, and in human resources roles for all of them. A lot of time spent in compensation and benefits, the benefits that every employed person enjoys, from the retirement plan to the health plan, dental plan. There's a lot that goes into the design and administration, execution of all those, and bonus plans and executive comp plans and stock plans and all those sorts of things. So I did that.
I guess you're constantly evaluating the plans and you know who you can get them from and what is the best.
Yes, you have vendor selection. Should you have Fidelity as the record keeper for your 401k, or Vanguard, or any of the other many companies, smaller companies, and then things like what kind of match do you want for the plans? What should your dental plan cover? Should you have a dental plan? Which vendors should you use? How do you negotiate with them? Because those the costs of them are astronomical. The medical especially, and
especially with some of the large companies that you're talking about, like SAP and Cigna, like those are, I'm sure, multi-million-dollar deals that you're working out as far as which vendor you're going to use for different things, right? Yep.
And when you're a big company, you get a lot of attention from the vendors, but you have a lot of negotiating power. But all the big companies, for the most part, are self-insured, meaning that they use those the Blue Crosses, the Blue Shields, the Aetnas of the world as administrators, and many self-insure. Not to get into details, but it means that they really are insuring themselves to decide to pay the claims. And so when somebody has a transplant or something serious, it can make a big dent in it. And so there's a whole focus on wellness to try to make sure that people are as fit and well as they possibly can be. And that's always, as anybody knows, staying fit is not an easy task.
Well, a lot of companies, now, and maybe back then, give you incentives to go to the gym, or to eat healthy and things like that, and sometimes they even pay you cash, and it's like, how can they afford to pay me? But they're saving a lot of money on the other end of it if you are living a more healthy lifestyle. Correct?
Yep. Weight Watchers memberships, gym memberships, for reimbursements, all those sorts of things. For a while there were companies focusing on biometrics, your body mass index, and your some blood work around triglycerides and cholesterol and those sorts of things. Moved away from it a little bit, but it was all in the same vein of trying to encourage people to be as healthy as possible.
Right. So what was your, within human resources, the different positions that you've held, which one was your favorite or most interesting to you?
Well, most recently, I spent the last 15 years at Trinity Health. I started out with the predecessor company, Catholic Health East, which was based in Newtown Square, so I could commute there from our home in Medford, or in Morristown at the time. Long commute, 45 minutes or so, but I could get there and back. And then they were purchased by Trinity Health, which is in suburban Detroit. And so I ran a service center. I was vice president of human resources and shared services for them. So in big companies, they don't want all the different hospitals that they own, 100 or so hospitals that a company like Trinity owns, to have duplicative services all around the different hospitals. They put it all together into the shared service. And so you have 100 or 125 people or so who are responsible for doing everything human resources related for all the employees. So if you have any questions about your daughter's graduating college, when does she fall off my benefits, or I'm going to the doctor, what's my copay, or anything like that, a service center manages all of that, and it does it with an employee portal and all sorts of technology to help as well. So it was a lot of fun to do that. It was difficult because at first, I was going back and forth a lot because my kids were still home, our kids were still home. Then when they all left, I took an apartment out there and would commute weekly. I would fly out on Sunday and fly back on Thursday, work remotely on Friday. And I did that for several years. Had a Spartan apartment of a bed, a folding card table, one chair, and a TV, and an ironing board and an iron, because my life was here and I didn't want to build a whole new one away from my wife. But so that was it was a fun job. It was hard being away, but then COVID hit, and basically everything went remote. I packed up the Jeep and came home and never went back. And then I did that for several years across COVID, and then for a few years after, because like a lot of companies, we sold a lot of buildings, and really were encouraging people at the time to work remotely. Now it's turned around a little bit. Companies are bringing people back, but just really last summer was the end for me. I retired and have been enjoying it since. Our youngest got married in California, and he married a second-generation Indian woman, and so it was this big 2-day affair where Indian ceremony, Western ceremony. We all had Indian clothes. I had 3 different Indian outfits I had to tux because for the Western ceremony. My son rode in on a horse. It was everything you may have ever heard about that kind of event.
Very Western.
It was very fun.
Very cool.
Affair, and then we spent another week driving from Northern California. It was in Atherton, suburban San Francisco. We drove the Pacific Coast Highway down and flew out of LA a week later. So it was a really nice post-retirement jaunt.
That sounds very cool. Excellent. So let's talk about your family a little bit too. You said married 34 years.
Yep. My wife went to Cherry Hill East. She did something similar to this. Where are they now for hers? And so when the call came, I decided to try it as well. She did a much better job, I think.
You're doing great.
But yes, she went to East. We met when we were both waiting tables a long time ago at a restaurant that no longer exists in Marlton. We had 3 kids. We raised them all in Morristown. It was a great place to raise a family. Morristown is a really nice town, nice Main Street town, and really enjoyed it there. Then they all left. One is in Montana, our oldest, earned his doctorate in physical therapy. And after a few different jobs, he married he was a civilian contractor at an Air Force base in Biloxi, Mississippi. And met a woman there and married her. And then they came together to the joint base here, Dix, what was Dix McGuire. And spent a few years there, and now are at the Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana. And so last March, we packed up a U-Haul, and I drove with pulling his Jeep behind us from here to Montana. It snowed most of the way there, but they're settled out there now and doing great.
Very cool.
So he's out there. Our second is our daughter is local. She went to University of Tampa, came back here, just earned her master's from Loyola, her MBA. Lives in Mount Laurel. She bought a home there after living in Fishtown for a while, and she's with an insurance brokerage as an account manager. And our youngest went to the University of Miami, where he stayed and earned his master's, and while he was there, he met his now wife. They stayed there for a couple of years. He worked there, and she went to medical school at the University of Miami. And so she is now a resident. She's doing a 4-year residency in pediatrics and medicine at UCLA. So they live in Santa Monica. So yeah, it's
so they've been all over the place.
Always, they've been all over the place. It's always a little bittersweet. You want them to pursue their dreams, but you have to get on a plane to see them. It's a lot. But we've been out to Montana twice now. We went most recently. We flew out there and then went to Canada, hiked around Banff for a while, and then hiked in Glacier. So it's nice. We spent Thanksgiving out there as well.
Very nice.
So that was fun. In Montana, you can pay $5 and drive out into the state forest and cut down your Christmas tree. So we took a field trip and cut down a Christmas tree out there. And now we're going out to in May to visit in Santa Monica.
Very nice. So I'm sure it is tough having them so far away, but also gives you an excuse to do some of these experiences that maybe you wouldn't have done otherwise, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. I would not have gone to Montana or hiked around out there were it not for that. So yes, absolutely. And we're going to meet in Colorado in April.
Okay.
For a ski trip and vacation with everybody. So
Sure.
yeah, and then once they were all left, the house was really too big for the two of us, and I wanted to have a little more privacy.
Yeah.
And so we moved to a Medford, a wooded lot in Medford.
Okay.
And we've only been there a year and a half, and it's been great. And we have a koi pond with about 35 koi in it now.
Okay.
And we have a chocolate lab. Of course, we have dogs our whole marriage.
Okay.
And recently, I decided to get, we wanted chickens, so I spent probably a good 6 weekends building a chicken coop. I bought a blueprint online and built a chicken coop with a run behind it and a range behind that, and it's beautiful, if I do say so myself. It's nicer than my first apartment, I think. And then we went to Tractor Supply and knew one out in Atco, and we bought 6 chicks, little things like this. And my wife is an expert on chickens now. She's in a Facebook group with chickens. The chickens have their own Instagram page now, I think. And they have just started to lay eggs. So it's a very fun, retirement type project.
Okay. I'll have to get the Instagram handle from you. My daughter follows some ducks on Instagram, so the chickens, she might be interested in that too. So I'll have to check that out. Very cool. Also, in your free time, you like to exercise. You've ran a few marathons.
I have. My older sister Ann, who, as I said, went here, was into running, and so sort of followed in that, and ran a whole bunch of 10Ks and 5Ks and half marathons, and then finally decided to take the plunge and ran the half marathon in Philadelphia twice and in New York twice. Okay. And so I certainly don't run like that anymore. I had a knee replacement 3 years ago. Okay. But I still do quite a bit of exercise. I belong to a local gym, and I go every day. Our oldest uses an app. He owns a company called Across the Continuum, and he pushes me a exercise regimen every day, and I do that. So yeah, and the skiing is great too. I wish I lived closer, because Vail owns Big Boulder and Jack Frost in the Poconos. So I go up sometimes on the weekends, and I don't know if you ski, but there's ski people or ski patrol people who wear red jackets with a white cross, and they ski around and scrape up whoever gets hurt, and hopefully puts them in a sled and takes them down. So
that's you these days.
So yeah, so that is fun, and you ski for free, which is always nice as well. Anywhere the Vail owns a resort, and so recently, in the last couple of years, they bought a couple in Europe. So I'm hoping eventually to get over there and try it out.
Very cool. Have you seen any major wipeouts, or just minor stuff?
I've had twisted knees and sprains, etc. A colleague had to actually apply an AED to somebody last year. Really? That person had a heart attack on the mountain, and so yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it can get a little bit dicey.
I've had nothing that interesting or serious, happily.
Well, good. Hopefully it stays that way for you. Anything else on the horizon for you? Anything coming up in the future?
I'm not sure, actually. Retirement is...
it's new, right? So you'll see how it goes.
We'll see. We went to Italy a few years ago, probably just maybe 3 years ago for my wife's 60th birthday, and that was great fun. I could see us going back there or other places. But with the kids spread around, I think that we'll spend most of our time visiting them and spending our time and money doing that. We've looked at train trips, cross-country train trips. So there's no shortage of ways to spend your time or money in retirement, and so we're trying out the different possibilities.
Good. Yeah, exploring, seeing what's out there. That's terrific. Well, Tony, it's been great catching up with you today. Congratulations on all your success and on retirement, and hope you continue to enjoy yourself, and thanks a lot for being here today.
Great. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
It's been great having you. And that's all for this episode of Where Are They Now? For other Lenape District alumnus interviews, check us out online at youtube.com/Lenape District TV. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.